All right, welcome back to another episode of Crestview Leads, where I, Tim Bolduc, the city manager for the city of Crestview, get to hang out with people who have influenced my life in the area of leadership. And we get together, we have a conversation, we talk about it, and all kinds of good stuff. And so today I've got the city of Crestview's fire chief, Mr. Anthony Holland. Welcome, Tony.
Welcome. Thank you. I appreciate you having me on the show.
I'm pretty excited to have you on. I do have to tell you that we both have to behave ourselves. So we can't talk like we normally do.
No,
we have to talk like it's professional.
I got you.
We can not really professional. We just can't use all the words that we use, right? Because people from the church will see us on this podcast now. So I'm excited to have you, Tony. Tony is our fire chief. Tony was here as the fire chief before I got here. I got a chance to sit down in his office when I was considering. I don't know if I was in the application, but I think it was before. I think I was considering applying. Came, sat down, talked to Tony about what his expectations were. I'd heard so much about how much the fire department was going to hate city managers, and so we've done this deal together now the last 5 years, and got a tremendous amount of respect for Tony and all the work he's done here. All the stuff, like where we are as a fire department. Changing from the way they used to do things, and then you've been this transition period of bridging the original way Crestview Fire did things, getting us prepared as we move in to an entirely different mindset. But you are this bridge in between that has been able to do that, and so one of those influential leaders in our community. People follow you. You and I've had that conversation. Yeah. They follow you because they love you. So I'm excited to have you on here. Thanks for taking some time.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
All right. So first, before we get rolling and start talking about leadership, tell us a little bit about, not like no one in Crestview, like people in Crestview don't know Tony, but let's talk about it. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where you from? How long you been in the fire service? That good stuff.
Well, I was born in Port St. Joe, and then we moved to Crestview right after that. So I've actually been in Crestview now for 48 years.
Nice.
So this is my hometown. This is where I grew up at. I was the one out of three of us that started school here and finished school here.
Okay.
So my sister and brother ended up having to move around between Port St. Joe, Fort Walton Beach, and then finally they both ended up here in Crestview. Graduated school back in June of '92.
Bulldog?
Crestview Bulldogs.
Go Bulldogs.
And during that time, we actually was part of the drama team.
What?
So I was actually
I love
part
these
of the drama.
shows, man. I learn something new all the time. What did you play, Miss Doubtfire? What did you play?
Well, I actually was three roles. We did George M. Cohan, we did Oklahoma, and then we did West Side Story.
Are the winds coming over the plains?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I sang those songs too. I was Ike Skidmore is what the name was, the character.
On.
And but as we were doing that, we actually started working with the Crestview Fire Department because we wanted to put on a production of drinking and driving at a young age.
Okay.
And it was called Operation Grad Night. And we actually went out and worked with the EMS, worked with the fire department, the police department, sheriff's department, and we did this huge production. And I was one of the actors that was in the car that was involved in the wreck, and they had to extricate me out of the vehicle. So whenever they did that, I had to hang around because believe it or not, I was a good kid. I didn't start drinking until after I was 21, so I didn't know how anybody acted. So I got to hang out at the fire department and have
learn how to act drunk.
To learn how to act drunk.
That's awesome.
Because they've been on scenes, they've seen it. So
I'm sure that's what it was.
I'm sure that's what it was.
Yeah, okay, got it.
But yeah, so I got to hanging out with them, and then after we did the production, I just drew a real strong interest in it and helping my community and being part of a family. Yeah. And so after graduation, I was looking through an old word of Okaloosa Walton Community College, OWCC catalog.
Right.
And I saw on the thing there, it said firefighter. And so Mom was asking me, she said, well, what are you going to do now? And I was like, well, I think I want to become a firefighter. She wasn't happy with that.
Right.
Not at all. So I went and joined the volunteers, worked with them. We were going through a CPR class, and I was going up to go take the test, and my mom prayed. And she said, Lord, if this is what you want my son to do, let him make a 90 or above on the exam, and I will accept
So she thought that was a sure no.
Yep. She thought it. Apparently she thought I was going to get below that. So I came home, and she said, what'd you make? And I said, I made 100. And she said, okay. Well, she said, well, this is what you're supposed to be doing. And so now I've been with Crestview. Actually, just here recently, I just passed my anniversary date, and so I've been with Crestview now for 31 years.
31 years.
So I started out as a volunteer, Got hired on August of '93 by Chief Traylor. Started out as a firefighter, worked my way up to lieutenant, captain, battalion chief, assistant chief, deputy chief, and then now the fire chief.
I love it.
For the past, 7 years now?
Yeah.
7, 8 years?
Yeah. A couple of years before I got here.
Yeah.
So it's probably 8. You're probably pushing 8.
About 8 years now, yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love that story. There's so much, because this is a leadership podcast, and plus, I mean, you know me, I love to talk about leadership.
Yes,
growth.
you do.
Yes, you do.
Yes,
It's annoying. It's annoying. But, like, I just love this idea of, like, volunteer to firefighter to bad chief or to, captain, driver, lieutenant. I can never remember. You guys,
we always have to stretch you straight a little bit on that one.
Yeah, but all this way up, and then to be the chief, and then to watch this organization go through the transition that it's going through, and all this kind of stuff. It's just
and be the first one to actually work his way up through the ranks to become the chief of Crestview, because before they've hired outside, former military and all that. So.
Very cool. So Traylor was not from here, or not didn't come up in the organization.
No, he was from the military.
Yeah, and then you've also now groomed your next chief.
Yes, sir.
Really?
Yep.
So that's a whole nother bit. And then you announced a couple months ago you were going to be retiring, and so like what I've had this conversation privately, but like I am just so impressed about your ability to be in the role that you're in, walk them through the transition, help those guys get ready, and then not be like, it takes a special guy to do that. It doesn't matter who we are when we retire. It's like, hey, this is my gig, my thing. But you've been just, Josh is great. Josh's going to be a great chief, and he'll be fine and all that stuff. But watching you with him, one, it's been fun to watch you do it because it looked like you're having a good time with him.
Yeah, absolutely.
But also just like for him, how important it was to set them up for success. You just have really, really crushed it, and I'm super impressed with it. But yeah, no. So we, came in. You were the chief. Then all of a sudden they're going to bring in a city manager. Boo, poo, poo, poo. Nobody likes that idea.
Yeah, we got a lot of former police chief, the former fire chief.
Yeah.
Everybody was downing a city manager.
Right.
Big.
I don't blame them.
So
I don't blame them. They're paying. They get on my nerves.
Hey, I think you've set the bar pretty high, and the guys respect you. You love your city. You love the people in the city. Not only the citizens, but the employees as well, and you've taken good care of us, and
I appreciate
that view around.
I appreciate you saying that. But one of the things that when I talk about you all the time is like, if I could bottle like the way that you love, I think part of what makes this you transitioning the next guy in and the way you're handling is because of how much you absolutely just love this department, right? And so when we talk a lot on this show about leadership, and I always talk about when people are wanting to promote or those kind of things, trying to help people understand that it has to be like, if you're going to do it well, if you're going to lead well, you have to have like a passion for what you're doing, not just for the position, not just for the money that comes with the position. It has to be about like being a part of something much bigger than yourself. Yeah. And like you like your love for the city, and then your love for firefighting in general. It's just really, really fun to watch. So let's talk about a little bit about leadership, right? Okay. And so how do You've gone through a couple different transitions with the fire department. So how long was Traylor here before you got here?
He wasn't here very long. He got hired on early '93.
Okay.
So then he hired me after that, probably like a few months after he'd been here.
Yeah, but then he retired in 2018?
17, I think it was.
Right. So 93 to 17 is a long time.
Yeah.
Right. So he had been here for a long time. You come in completely different style, right? So you had to lead through that transition. Let's talk about how do you do that? Because a lot of times, people may be watching this show that are looking for something on leadership. One of the things I struggled to teach people is, how do you go from being a part of the team, part of the group, you were a firefighter and a bat chief and all that. How do you go from doing that to being the head, and then keep that without being best friends? Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, how do you make that transition? Because you had to do it a couple of different times.
I had to do it a few times, yes, sir. Whenever I got moved off the line into inspections, into a battalion chief role, that was what kind of started it. I never considered myself a great leader because I moved up so fast in the fire service that when I was a captain, I was kind of real iffy with just my crew. when I became a battalion chief, that helped out a lot because it kind of got me away from that crew and away from that mindset of where we're all buddies and everything else, which you still can be.
Sure.
You just got to keep that balance.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot there. Then as I moved up there, I was able to adjust more into the role of where I was, the boss. I was getting to be the head cheese, as they call it, up there. But I ended up finding out is learning from what I wanted on the line. So being on the line, it was like what I wanted in a leader was someone that was going to listen to us, listen to our opinion and all that kind of stuff about things, because we were out there doing it day to day.
Right.
So when I did become chief, that was one thing I've actually had. Many other fire chiefs had asked me, what is your success? Because the guys are thriving up there. And I told them, I said, it's the fact that I listen to them.
Yeah.
I listen to my guys. They come to me with a concern. I seek their opinion. I seek their buy-in. You've taught me that language. I was kind of doing it before you've actually introduced that to me, and trying to get them to make the department for what they want it to be, and I wanted to be that leader to be able to guide them in that direction. So
one of the things that's always been funny to me is, like, even when people are your guys are frustrated with Tony, it always starts with, I love Tony, whatever it is, right? So it's like this, your ability to build that relationship with them I think has been huge in getting them to drag this organization, because really, like, Josh is going to come into a good gig.
Yes.
Because he's going to come in and then everybody's going to be like, oh, Crestview is great. Well, that stuff is built on the work that you've put in, is really what it comes down to, right? Because you really have taken the organization from being something where people go, oh, Crestview Fire, to now people go, oh, Crestview Fire. It's a whole different.
It's a definitely different mindset.
It's a different mindset. Training towers and new vehicles and brand new fire trucks, and Tony, you set up the replacement schedules for the fire trucks. That happened all before I got here.
Yeah.
It was the only department that had effective and efficient replacement schedules for their equipment. And so all of those things are very, very cool. One of the best parts about that is, like, I'll teach these classes and stuff, and you're always like, well, we didn't, nobody did that before. But you were doing a lot of those things, the same things that we're teaching.
Yeah.
We just different vocabulary,
right?
Different way to go about it. And so, you said part of it is making sure that you would listen to them and take into account what they're saying, because they're the ones that are closest to it, right? So that's the way you grow success. What are some of the other things that you would advise young leaders who are moving through an organization and they've got to go into a position from being part of the crew to going into a leadership role? So if right now you got promotions that are going to come up.
Yes.
And you got guys that, and fortunately or unfortunately for them, maybe depends on how you look at it, for them, a lot of these guys are moving way faster than is standard in the fire operations, because we want to try to promote from within.
Yes.
And so when we do that, you're going to have these guys that go from being a firefighter one to being, again, I'm going to mess it up, captain, whatever, captain, this captain, lieutenant, that guy. But you got these guys that are not spending as much time in those progressionary leadership roles, and now they're in huge leadership roles. Give me a couple pieces of advice you want to make sure they understand about. How are they going to do that?
Well, that definitely is attending some classes, definitely some leadership classes as well, to be able to learn that, which a lot of my guys have.
Sure.
So they have attended some of the leadership deals and everything else. The thing to remember on that is the fact that you do have to get to where you do separate yourself just a little bit from them.
Right.
Not completely.
Right.
You can still be there, drink coffee with them in the mornings, kind of talk with them, socialize with them, to ask them about how their day is, how their family is. Stay a little bit personal on them and everything else. But when it comes down to it, you have to be able to kind of limit yourself, and you keep as we learned, our first team together and all that, where we've learned that together, whereas being a department head, my first team is actually the other department heads.
So tease that out. What does that mean?
Well, what that means is, in the old days of where I was growing up, I always learned, or I was always taught, that my first team was my department.
Right. Or your shift.
Or my shift in this case. And that can't be anymore. As you move up in it, as you move up into the ranks, you have to start learning what your first team is.
Yeah.
So in my case, I had learned, as you brought it all in, was that it wasn't, first team was not my department. My first team is actually my department heads, which is all the, the police department, the finance department, all that. We all work together to solve the issues, and either personal issues with our own organization, our own department, but we're doing it together as a whole with the city of Crestview in mind.
People struggle really, especially paramilitary operations like police and fire. They struggle with it when we say, listen, your shift is not your team.
Right.
If you're a sergeant, if you're a bat chief, if you're a somebody who's in a supervisory role, if you're a supervisor, mid-level supervisor in the general government side, your first team is not the people who work for you. They are your charge. They are your responsibility. They are your people that you have to take care of and be responsible for, but that's not your first team, meaning that you don't give up everything to give them what they want.
Right.
What you do is you participate in the level of the organization that you're supposed to be in. You push initiatives or you push information up and then bring the initiatives back down to make sure that the whole organization moves forward, and your team, your responsibles, your charges, the people you're responsible for, they're winning. Well, the whole organization is moving forward.
Yes.
And what we find, and you've adapted to this very, very well, but it was a new concept here, especially here because we had 7 different kingdoms.
Everybody was on their own. Everybody had their own little piece of the kingdom.
But what happens with that is when you finally grasp it, your actual people that you think that you're caring for, when you're only caring for them, are not getting what they need as much as they do when you're filling your role on the team you're supposed to be on, because then you have a respected voice on the team. When we got here, when we started to shift the way the department heads saw that, in other words, it's not everything for the fire at all cost. You're in there giving and taking with your team, the other department heads. That way, when you actually need something and you have to go in and do it, you're doing it from a position where they can trust what you're saying because you've given and you've participated and all that.
Absolutely.
But it's always hard for people to get that. But of course, I love to hear you say first team because that's us trying to get. And it was hard for me originally too, because I want everybody to like me.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's hard to. I know that you guys might not believe that, but I do. I want everybody to like me. And so what we see in organizations is when. I had this conversation with the police department recently in the survey. We saw that some in the middle, people were like, "Oh, my squad is perfect. Everybody up here is maybe not listening to me." Well, that's a result of that when middle management is saying to the people that they're responsible for, "I don't know why the leadership's not doing what they're supposed to be doing," and so they buy the favor for themselves, but they're not keeping the organization moving forward. And so. That's tough, especially the original culture that you guys came up in here.
Yeah,
that's a tough thing. And so that's one of the things you would advise them is to understand who the team is,
understand who the team are. Yes, sir.
What about? So here's a good one for you. So when somebody's new to the battalion chief role and they don't know what to do, how would you advise it? Who do they talk to? What would you tell them to do? Listen to the crew? What do you do? What do you tell them?
Use with that one with battalion chiefs whenever they don't know. They usually will come and talk to either the deputy chief or myself, the deputy chiefs over operations, and to have the discussions of what to do or how to get their crews to work together or trying to figure things out. And so we try to usually give them some advice on that, try to lead to figure out things that they can do. I know some of them have. Again, we are a little bit different because they're there together for 48 hours.
Right.
So usually our thing is have dinner with them, sit around and drink coffee with them and everything else. But being back with the first team thing is something that me and the next fire chief, we actually had the discussion today of going, we really need to start pushing this to our guys because, the battalion chief, their first team is the other battalion chiefs, not the shift. The crew. Right. And so we're going to start initiating that and getting that started within there so we can actually start early. But we usually do. They usually will come in and ask us questions. Here recently, some of the battalion chiefs we have are a little bit older, and they kind of brought up techniques that they've learned from their previous shifts or their previous stations, and have brought up and learned that.
So would you say that when you're advising somebody new to a position, that part of what our job as top level supervisors, hopefully leaders, but in definitely supervisory positions, so they're going to listen to you.
Yeah.
So your new guys that are going to come up that are going to be, you'll have brand new battalion chiefs too. you're going to have, which means you're going to have, what's under battalion chief? Captain?
Yes.
By the end of this show, I might know.
You might know it, yes.
So, but you'll have a brand new captain, and you may have somebody in the battalion chief's role that's only been a captain for a little while.
Yeah.
I mean, heck, we're going to have a brand new chief who was only a battalion chief for about 20 minutes before he found out he was going to be. So, but you got so much influence in them. Would you agree that it's going to be important for you to help them understand it's okay not to know the answers?
Yes.
Right. And so part of that role is going to be you saying, listen, it's okay. If you don't know, reach out to your people, talk to your team that works for you, talk to the team that's your first team, but be okay with not knowing the answers.
Yeah, know your resources. So that's what we did as being a fire inspector. Good. We get questions all the time. I don't know everything, but where can I go to find the answer?
Yeah.
And that's one thing we try to teach them is like, you're not going to know it. Find a way. Use all your resources. With Josh coming in as a fire chief, he's got several other fire chiefs and other departments that he can reach out to and ask and ask those questions.
One of the things I've noticed as over the last couple of years working in and out of there doing training and stuff with you guys is that seems to be the culture inside of Crestview Fire is that, first of all, on the fire scene, you guys are money.
Yeah.
No doubt. Right. Doing what they're supposed to be doing all the time. But like, they also don't, you've built a culture of people who don't have a problem with going, hey, I'm not really sure about this, whatever it is. And sometimes the guys will even say, I go by there, I go to the gym and try to go to the gym 3 days a week. And so I'll run by, get a shower in the morning. They'll be sitting there drinking coffee. I'll stop in and drink coffee with them. But to hear them be okay about talking about what they don't know is a big deal. That is a shift in fire culture. Would you not agree?
Yes. No, I agree 100%.
So how did you do that?
With our probationary firefighters, whenever they start coming in and everything else, we teach them, they already know about how to fight fire and everything else. So we're teaching them about our trucks, about our policies and all that kind of stuff. As they get up and we tell them, they got to give a little display or a little presentation about what's on each truck, what's in each compartment. And I've had quite a few of them that would always ask, well, Chief, I'm getting off probation. I'm fixing to start shift. What's your advice? And I said, my advice is that you're not going to know everything.
I love it.
Ask a question. I'd rather you stop for a second and ask a question to get the correct answer versus you trying to figure it out on your own.
What's cool about that, Tony, is, 100 times probably, I have heard, that might be an exaggeration, but it's a lot. Your guys have said to me things along the lines of, hey, boss, I don't want to sound dumb, but blah, 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 blah. And they'll ask whatever that question is. And I always, I've been around local government for a long time. So, I've always thought about that in firefighting and policing, a lot of times they don't like to ask those questions. So it's a pretty cool culture to have created over there. We're getting close to the end, so I got two things I want to ask you. And one of them, you got to tell a story, but it's got to be a good, clean story. Tell me one of your favorite stories about. You've been here for 31 years. One of your favorite stories about fighting fires here in Crestview. What's something that you can say on the radio?
I can say this one. This was one of my. It has nothing to do with the fire.
Yeah.
We got responded to a young lady. That while she was vacuuming the floor, she had bent over to get underneath the couch. The vacuum cleaner fell over, and when it did, the beater bars literally sucked her hair up into the vacuum cleaner and was like right on top of her head. So we got the call, and me and a lieutenant at the time get on scene, and firefighters can disassemble and destroy anything. You know that.
Oh yeah, they're like $1 million trucks.
We don't like to put things back together, but we'll take.
They will run into a burning building, but will trip getting out of the office too. Be on comp for 8 months.
So we get on scene. The mom comes out, and they're like, "We don't want to cut her hair. She had long, beautiful hair."
Oh gosh.
And that we don't want to cut her hair. We don't want to cut her hair. We said, "Okay." So it took us a while, and we disassembled this whole vacuum cleaner and got her hair untangled, got it completely out of the deal. And my lieutenant, without skipping a beat, looked right at her mom and said, "Well, it was a hairy situation, but we got it done." And then she goes, "Oh, were you going to put the vacuum cleaner back?" And he went, "No, ma'am, we don't do that.
We're only here to
destroy it."
You know what I love about that is that's such a great story. I knew you'd have a good one for me, but it's such a great. It's honestly, it speaks to what you guys do, right? Like it's just this whole idea about I teach, or you know this already, but for everybody else, one of the things I teach is that we are going, when we say we're going to improve the quality of life by providing exceptional municipal services, what that means, what I tell our team that means is you're going to make their experience the best you can, even when it's a bad experience. And
Absolutely.
so like taking the time to tear that thing apart, to get that hair out is like honestly, that's couldn't tell a better story that just encapsulates what we're about. And then also the nonsense at the end of saying it's a hairy situation and no, we're not putting your crap back together.
Yeah. I was a young fireman, so I'm somewhere just kind of staring at the mom, and she just kind of looked, and he's laughing and walking out the door. And I'm
That's awesome.
Well, all right, well, here we go.
All right, we'll see you later.
We'll see you later.
That's too good, too good. All right, last question for you, Tony, is this. When you look either back over your career, professionally, personally, look into your life, and you think about leaders that you've had in your life, who stands out to you, and then what about them is something that you want to emulate, and why?
Growing up in the fire service, I mean, I know a lot of people probably say, my parents were absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, sure.
Or a celebrity or whatever else. But I actually had two gentlemen. One, his name is Rick Sanders. He was an assistant chief here. Yeah. He's the one that actually kind of brought me into the fire service. So
Name comes up a lot.
I always thank him a lot.
Yeah.
And then the other one would be Captain. Well, he retired out as an assistant chief as well, but it was Doug Swing. He was my first captain on C shift when I first started, he was there. Both of those two men, their leadership styles are a little bit different.
Yeah.
One, Captain Swing, what I loved about him was the fact that he could, I almost messed up. He could jump into your butt,
right,
and just be but then turn right around and be like, "So what are you going to do for lunch?"
I love that. Yeah.
And where I would be all steamed up, you just got on to me about this, and now you want to be a friend. But he was able to get the point across. He was always would give examples of, or let you kind of go about something, and then go, "Okay, what did you learn from this?" And he would always take the time. Rick was more on the personal level. He would kind of get with you, socialize with you, laugh and kind of joke and everything else. But he also would do the, ask you a question, and then if you didn't know the answer, he would go, "Well, where would you find it? Where would you go to look for it?"
Taught you how to research.
Taught you how to research and everything else. So both those gentlemen played a solid pivotal point in my career where I learned from them, and then fortunately I was able to be with Doug for a while. Then I got switched shifts, and then I was able to get promoted to battalion chief in inspections and work underneath Rick Sanders for a while.
Nice. Good. Both those are great stories. I love to ask that question because a lot of times people think of this idea of like, what's a leader? And then they want it to be this big person that's completely out of their reach. But better than half the time in this room, when we do this, the people that are listed off as leaders who had influence on someone's life don't even know it.
Yeah.
Like those people probably don't know that they're coming up on the list of your favorite leaders after 31 years in the fire service. And so it's just an amazing deal. Before I let you get out of here, man, I just wanted to just say briefly how much I appreciate you. We've worked together now 5 years. Obviously, we don't agree on everything all the time for sure, but I have the greatest amount of respect for you. The job that you've done here at Crestview, like what I thought I would be coming into as an organization based on what people, from the outside say, and then what I saw when I got here and how all the work you did to create this team, to build this team, how proud you should be of the fact that we're going to, the whole next generation of leadership has been under your training and stuff. And so just us, and then the way you've handled the transition and making sure that I don't screw this thing up when we get the next group in here. Just such a good guy, man. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you. I've never worked with anybody who loves this city they work for and loves the people they work with more than you. And you're just an amazing dude.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for that. Thank you for watching, listening to us on the podcast. If you like it, like it, share it. We're on all the different podcast platforms. Tell your friends about it. And we'd love to have you put down in the comments different topics you would like for us to cover. Thank you so much for taking your time with us. And that's why Crestview leads.